Hi, Bruce. Hey, Bruce. Hi, Valeria. Let's see the cut rooms. Hi, Bruce. Oh, really? Okay. All right, let me try something here. Hey, can you all unmute yourselves?
Sure thing.
Because Bruce is having trouble. Hi, and Annie, hold on. Let me make sure Bruce asked to unmute.
I'll be right back.
Bruce, I asked you to unmute. It says that you have the capabilities. But you could text me if you can't. Andres, can you unmute yourself? Just curious.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. Bruce, I think it might be your computer. But if you want to call me to troubleshoot, please do so. Oh.
You're becoming a regular, Andres.
I'm a interested city resident.
I love it.
That and more.
Yes, that's right. Okay, let's see. Where? Oh, Valeria looks like she's somewhere nice. Are you outside?
I am in this little greenhouse between two houses. It's really sweet, surrounded by plants.
Are you in town?
Back in town, leaving again.
Oh,
But
Oof.
yeah, it's so good to see you both.
in a whirlwind today.
Oh, we got Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris. Here's everybody today.
And Andres. Hola, Andres.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Ooh. Whoa.
What happened?
Did you see that? Oh,
No.
the whole screen went like fuzzy and funky and you all disappeared and now you're back. My day. Chris has a different background. Can you hear us okay, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to my city backgrounds.
I guess everyone jumps on at the last minute now.
TikTok, TikTok, TikTok.
Annie, I like your haircut. It looks
Thank
good.
you, Renee. It feels
You
kind
like
of,
it?
yeah, it feels good not to have so much hair, to be honest.
Mm.
Very
Feels
pretty.
different and change.
Oh, look who we have here.
Thank you.
Yes, you look great. Hello, Gino. Welcome. You're on mute.
Still figuring out the mute button after all this time.
All good.
Hi, Counselor. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to be present.
Bruce, you're in Chicago.
I'm underneath the beam.
Yes, I love it.
No,
And we can hear you.
I just had to restart my computer. There's a lot of stuff, so I'm good.
No problem. I'm glad it worked out.
I'm
Well,
attending
nobody-
from Roswell.
Oh, nice. You're still there?
I was in San Diego last meeting, Roswell this meeting.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you went to the Democratic
Oh, no,
primary.
no. I've got some school work down here, some school district work down here.
Oh, got it. I was like, you're back in school? You crazy?
Fully no.
Hey, Emily. Oh.
Hey, hi Gina.
Gina.
Hi, Emily.
Oh, so good to see you. Welcome.
Nice to see you. And Councilor Rivera. Nice to see you, sir.
Did you know?
We'll let you introduce yourself once we get everybody on here, but let me see let me just check my emails if anyone said they weren't gonna make it. Hmm. Chris, do you have Mary Louise's number?
Mm,
I have it if you need it.
There's Monica. Hey there. Okay. And last but not least, hello. I think we're waiting on Marcela. All right.
Hi, Gino.
Hi, Prima. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's nice to see you. I'm doing very well. How's your grandma?
She's doing good. I talked to her actually 2 days ago because some of us travel to Phoenix. So my grandparents, whenever I go anywhere, they obsessively look at the weather and the flights. But they'll be so excited for that I got to talk to you over here.
Yes.
And
Please give them my best.
I will. It's so nice to see you. Give everybody my best.
I shall.
How are you two related?
Her
My
grandma and my mother are first cousins.
Mm,
So they're my mom's mom and Monica's grandma's mom were sisters in Vegas in the Montoya family.
I love to hear how people are connected. So Marcela is going to join us in a bit, but we can start and just, yeah, I feel like we need to start because we have a change in our agenda, unfortunately. So those of you that are joining us, like Andres, and I think that's our only guest, may or may not want to keep with us, and some we won't have the presentation we're expecting. But let's start. I guess let's officially start our Community Health and Safety Task Force meeting for March 8th, 2022. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:34. And in terms of roll call, we don't do roll call, but if we could just make sure we name who's here.
Absolutely. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Councilwoman Villarreal. All right, so we've got March 8th, 2022. We've got Renee, Chris, Annie, Gino, Bruce, Emily, Monica, Mary Louise, and our dear guest. Do I have Marcela? Is she off camera or not here
She
yet?
hasn't jumped on yet.
Okay.
She will be joining us shortly.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll turn to updates or communications from co-chairs. Like that.
Chris, do you want to go first? So you can tell us what change happened for our presentation.
Yeah, so I'm in a meeting or an interview, I guess, with one of the police chief candidates when I get this text message, and I'll read it to you guys. It says, Chris, it's Faith Vavra from Ithaca. We are having issues for tonight internally. I do not think we will be able to make it. I would like the project leads to be in the meeting too. Can we come after our public discussion happens with council, which will be after April 3rd? She continues to say, I'm so sorry for the late notice, but I did not anticipate this public response. So not sure what's going on there. She said she could talk after 1 p.m. her time. I did try to call her and she did not answer. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but the way things have gone in our city the last 7 days, I see how things can change at the drop of a dime. So hopefully we can connect with them later. And she did send the presentation that she was going to have tonight. And she said, please share it with the committee so that it may generate more questions next time we do, or when we do find a time where we can meet up. So I'll forward that to Valeria and maybe she can get it out to the rest of the group if that's okay with you, Valeria. Good. So sorry, we thought we had it all, I was excited about it, and unfortunately something happened.
Well, now we know when they will be able to reschedule next time. Or the next date. They said after April 3rd, you said, Chris?
That's what they would prefer. I guess they'll be done with their recommendations to council at that time.
Got it. And then we thought about shifting gears to have another type of presentation for today, but because we didn't notice it, we cannot have it. So in case there's people from the public that want to hear, we thought about the restorative justice presentation. However, that would force you all to last minute put something together. I know you already had something together, but prepare for this evening, and also we didn't have it noticed, so we couldn't do it that way. So we have options today to just maybe some updates from anything that is pertinent to our work. And then if we want, we could take some time to just go into our breakouts with our working groups and just kind of regroup. And I'm hoping maybe Gino can also join our working group. But before we do that, I think maybe we should have Gino Sorry, Gino, you're prepared to present tonight.
Sure, I've got a 30-page PowerPoint. It will only take me 3 hours.
Awesome. So maybe I'm just trying to think time-wise. Is there anything else, Chris, that you wanted to update before we let Gino introduce himself?
I don't think so. And we went to the fines and fees conference in Phoenix. We were down there with some really great people, learned a lot. Hopefully we can share that a little more at some time, and looking forward to what will come out of that conference. So thanks to Monica and Councilwoman Villarreal was there, and just a whole lot of people that we networked with.
Do we want to take more time to talk about that tonight? Do you all want to hear about that? So maybe we could, after we do, have Gino say a little bit, then we can talk a little bit more about that. Mary Louise, you have your hand up?
Yes, just because we're on this task force for public safety, and I feel like we need to take a moment just to recognize that we lost 2 people in the last week, and I just feel like our hearts go out to the family and that we're doing this work because we want to make that part better. And I feel like we need to just recognize the pain that our community is feeling as a result of that.
Thank you, Mary Louise. I feel like, yeah, I'm in like mode of like work mode right now. So I've been trying to like push that or compartmentalize that because it's been so hard the last couple of weeks about what's occurred in our community. And so thank you for bringing that up and creating a space for that. I don't know if everybody knows about what occurred, well, last week and then also today or last night. First, we lost an officer last week from that car pursuit on the freeway, and I'm sure all of you already knew about that. And that was a devastating loss to our city family. And yesterday we had a situation involving 2 city staff people that was more of a road rage. I don't know all the details, but one staff person shot the other staff person, and this was on the road yesterday. So one of them died and the other one is in jail. So it's been a rough day for the most part. So just wanted to thank you, Mary Louise, for bringing that up and just keeping, even if we don't know these folks, they have families, they have friends, and they have coworkers that are grieving right now. And so just wanted to make sure we, recognize the importance of our work, but also the importance of being there for community members, whether it's through prayer or through just thinking about people, what they're going through, and knowing that there's people that are struggling, and that comes out in really ugly and devastating ways. So thank you. I don't know if anyone else had anything to share about that particular situation or anything else you want to meet or you want space for.
If I could just add, first of all, thank you, Mary Louise. There's been a lot going on in our city this last couple of weeks. And acknowledgement here, happy International Women's Day, by the way. All these beautiful, amazing women, all of you and all of you here in this container and out in our community for all that you do, all the ways that you show up for a community, for the health and well-being of our communities. I just wanted to acknowledge our women.
Thank you, Valeria. Mary
Bruce
Louise,
is- Oh, sorry. Bruce was waving his hand as well earlier.
Was that incident yesterday the one at Sirius and St. Michael's?
yes.
Because I was there turning right into the Smiths when I saw easily 10 squad cars. And I was just hoping that nothing major happened, but apparently not. So it was quite a scene over there. That's all I had. Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, I was driving home from work and saw a situation, and they detoured us, but I didn't exactly know what happened until later on. Mary Louise, did you have your hand up again, or was that no? Okay. Well, I always want to start off with a deep breath. It's been such a day. So I think I'll pass it to Gino just to, get you officially into our space since the long-awaited new member. We've been anxiously awaiting your participation, and I'm glad to have you, Gino, and I'll hand it over to you for a few comments.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Renee and Chris, for your leadership for this task force. I've been following the task force since its inception. The work is important. What you come up with and now we come up with is important for our community. And the two circumstances, the two tragedies that have happened in the last week, that it affects our work. And hopefully our work can have an effect on preventing tragedies like that in the future. Mental health issues that we saw with last week's crash, all of that. So it's a little bit of a heavy heart as I join the task force, but it's also it's a good time to come on board and be motivated to continue to help affect our community. The people on the screen, I'm familiar with most all of you. I've worked with most all of you over 27 years now of trying to help our community. I have two highlights in my time, my relationship to the city. One is I served as city attorney for 4 years under Mayor Koss, and really enjoyed that time. I wish that I worked with Chris during that time. Renee, I wish you and I had an opportunity back then to work together. But that's not my highlight of my career with the city. Besides being on the Community Health and Safety Task Force, the highlight of my career was that I was chair of the Mayor's Youth Committee when I was 18 years old. So try as I might, I can't turn down opportunities to have an effect on my community, and I'm just happy to be a member of this task force, to work with you, and really proud of the folks on this. I see the names, and I'm thrilled you're all involved, and hopefully I can contribute.
You forgot to mention the year you were on the Mayor's Youth Advisory.
1987, 1986, 87.
Nice.
Yes. Now that said, Chris Rivetta had graduated at least 3 years prior to that. So
Wasn't it 10?
Sure.
yes.
Thank you, Gino. We're happy to have you, and your experience also working in the city, and also your legal background. So thank you.
And I didn't mention the legal background. Since I was a law student, somehow involved in many of the issues that we're covering, and whether during my time as a student prosecutor or a prosecutor with the Attorney General's office, my work with I'm formerly, over a decade ago, president of the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and did a lot of work during law school, actually working with a shelter in Tucson. Not just working with the residents, but I remember doing things like Halloween parties for the children to give them some type of normalcy while they were transitioning, hopefully into better lives. So these community concerns, I look forward to continuing working on it with all of you.
Thank you, Gino. I love it. So I think, I don't know, Monica, do you want to start us off and talk about the Cities and Counties Fine and Fee Justice Boot Camp? I don't know if you can see that, it's blurry.
Sure.
Anyway,
I'd be happy to.
you want to start, and then we can add to some of the things that resonated for us, or just that was important in general, because I agree with Chris. It was phenomenal training. and I wish more people could attend and that we could bring it to New Mexico. But so I'll go ahead, Monica.
I'm so happy that we had some good New Mexico representation, both in person and via Zoom. Just for everybody here, I would have loved to invite everybody on this task force to come, but it was very limited capacity, primarily because of COVID and like literal capacity issues at the hotel that we were at in that room, which was packed. The purpose of the fines and fees, basically it's a cities and counties fines and fees boot camp. And what the Fines and Fees Justice Center has done, so my organization in partnership with Policy Link was create sort of a training for localities that are interested in pushing fines and fees reform locally. So it's very different than state reform because state law usually controls a lot of things, whereas, you know, at the city and county level, there is sort of a limited jurisdiction on what you can do. So the wonderful thing about this particular conference is it highlights some of the things that you could do and some of the things that other jurisdictions have done, including our first cohort, which participated in this the last 2 years, that worked with the Fines and Fees Justice Center and Policy Link to sort of pass reforms in this area. So they were there, they participated in a variety of different panels talking about their process, how they involved community, how they worked with local law enforcement, how they worked with electeds. Just so people get an idea of who was at this conference, it was primarily for electeds. So there was city councilors, county commissioners, judges, some law enforcement from across the country that were there, a couple advocates and community members, but it was mainly focused on sort of the decision makers and how they entered into this work. Some of the major priority areas for the conference that all of the panels hit over the course of 2 days. One was administrative fees in the criminal legal system. Administrative fees, they attach at every point. So there's supervision fees, there's conviction fees, there's jail fees, things like that. Driver's license suspensions and driver's license suspension reform in many states, as well as in ours, if you fail to pay, so even if you miss one payment, the court then sends notice to the motor vehicle division to suspend your license. So if you weren't able to pay before, you most likely won't be able to pay after because you can no longer get to work legally, take care of your family, take your kids to school, all of those things. And most importantly, you can't work anymore, right? It's hard to get to work. We don't have a very great public transportation system. We do have one, but it'd be great if we invested in it more. But because of this, it's sort of this backwards policy that we've done. And this happens at both state court and municipal court. And some jurisdictions have actually gotten rid of this requirement, allowing people to reinstate their driver's license so they can continue to go to work, so they can try to pay whatever it is they owe. Two others, I'm sorry if you guys can hear my dog, she's going a little crazy in the background. They're squeaking. The other two were the high cost of incarceration. There are many jurisdictions that actually charge booking fees. Santa Fe County Jail does not do that, but there are some other jails in the state of New Mexico that charge a booking fee, meaning that once you're brought into custody, you are charged anywhere from a $5 to a $25 fee for that stay while you're in jail. And then of course there's commissary, and a big one is the cost of communications with your loved ones. So for example, it's extremely expensive to call your girlfriend, your mother, your kids, your boyfriend when you're in custody. Some jurisdictions have actually abolished this altogether. And finally, A big one is any fines or fees that exceed your ability to pay. And we can get into that more, but these are sort of some of the primary policy reforms that we focused on. There was a lot of people there from across the country, and we were able to make some really wonderful connections, which was great. Just so that you all get an idea of who else was there in our state, we also had a county commissioner and somebody from the city's attorney's office in Bernalillo County and in Albuquerque. So we had essentially two cities represented from New Mexico, with the hopes that there'll be more in the future. But I don't know if you all want to talk more about things that stuck out to you. I'm happy to go into things more, but also eventually I'll do a presentation on some of the possibilities that we could do locally with regard to fines and fees reform here.
Thank you, Monica. That was a good summary. And it was 2 days, and they were kind of simultaneously doing, in person, which everybody was masked, which I appreciated. And then there were some people that were also virtual. And there is a recording of that, of both of the full 2 days, right, Monica, that they'll be able to share. I mean, it's a lot of time, so obviously we wouldn't expect you to want to listen to all of it, but maybe there's high points. If you want and are interested, we can give you that information. But I think for me, what was very rewarding is having policymakers and community advocates, and also people, impacted individuals, like people that actually had been in the system, and what it was like to try to get out, even though you were trying to do the right thing, and all the factors that were against you after serving time. So that to me was very helpful, to have those various perspectives. And the speakers and panelists, I think, were excellent, just to kind of balance it out. So I think one thing that stuck with me out of all the examples that they gave, there's some areas that we're doing way better than other big cities are. And then there's areas that we definitely have a need for improvement. And so we talked to Monica a little bit about that. Sometimes it's jurisdictional, that the city wouldn't have jurisdictions and there's state regulatory aspects that we can't control. But I think what was really resonating for me is that, community members that were impacted they were talking about how accountability and punishment are not the same thing. And that kept coming back in my mind about, the importance of obviously following the rules, but not putting somebody in some dire financial distress, even though they are trying to do the right thing. So all those factors really, they just resonated with me in so many ways. And then also just hearing about how some cities actually utilize these fines and fees for their revenue, for their budget. And that just blew my mind because it just doesn't make any sense. So we also have to kind of look at that from a jurisdictional, from our municipal point of view, and see what those costs are, those revenue sources are, and how they impact our budget. And so I think we still need to figure that out. But I think in the end, I'm wanting to move forward with some ways to at least first dissect our current situation and figure out what we have control over, and be able to have recommendations through this task force, but also parallel having ways that we can start making changes through policy. So I'm energized. I got energized from people that are just doing angels work across the country. So I don't know if Chris has anything else to share about his experience.
I'll just share one thing that came up, and it stuck with me because at first I thought I didn't hear it right. I thought something, I just didn't catch what she said, but she said with regards to the homeless people, typically they may get a citation for camping in an area they're not supposed to. And again, these people don't have a place to live, so they can't pay for a citation or maybe even appear in court. So she said what they do is, and I don't know if they give a voucher or just a letter that says that in lieu of a ticket, they must receive 10 social services. So instead of paying a fine, they had to agree to receive social services. That could be a meal, that could be our mobile hygiene unit, could be meeting with a counselor. I don't see Andreas anymore, but it could be something to do with our ARU. I mean, I thought that was great that instead of having to pay or having to be fined for something, you actually have to receive something in lieu of getting a ticket or something like that. So that stood out with me. And again, at first it was a double take because I was like, they receive services? I didn't hear that right. But later on, she reiterated it, and I thought that was a great idea.
Can I add just one more thing?
Please.
Just to add to what Councilor Rivera just said, he's talking about, it's called the Connect program. It's a pilot program out of San Francisco. And I think, and then in addition to that, I think what's difficult and what people don't realize is that you can go to jail because you can't pay. And we're in America, right? And there was this thing called debtors' prisons that we abolished in the 1800s because it was un-American to take somebody's freedom because they didn't have that money. Yet we found sort of another way to do that. So in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, people go to jail because they cannot afford to pay a fine or a fee. This happens. And it happens across the state, but it definitely happens in Santa Fe also. And there's really no, well, of course, there's no need for that. So there's lots of ways that we can approach the issue, and there's a lot of ways we can approach the issue on the municipal level, not just on the state level. But I could go on and on about fines and fees and other things with regard to the criminal legal system. But it was a wonderful conference, and I'm so glad that we were able to go.
Yes, thank you. I think the fact that there was alternatives that they provided instead of just telling us about the problems, but that there was alternatives to what we could do. And the fact that they've showed by research that when you lower fees and make it more or easier to pay, that more people will pay versus these high fees that will never get paid. And the city or whatever jurisdiction will never collect them. So there's like millions of dollars owed. And they said that if it was lower, there was more people that would be able to actually pay. So to say that you lose revenue is a farce. So I was really inspired by all of it. So thank you, Monica, for setting that up, and looking forward to how we can operationalize some things that we learned into policy changes. So any questions from any members about the boot camp or any policy stuff or anything in general related to this topic? All right. Okay, well, since we're not having a presentation, I guess to add to communications, our procurement process is moving forward from what they've been telling us, although these current situations might again delay us. However, there was conversation about to make sure that what we're putting into or what's written for the scope of work for Dr. Sanchez is accurate, and that they were going to move forward with that. They were communicating that with Chris and I while we were in Phoenix, but I think it's moving forward in some fashion. So that's good news. And then just to update on police chief, there's 2 finalists. One's internal, who's our current interim, Chief Joy, and there's another candidate who's a deputy chief from Rio Rancho. His name is Andrew Rodriguez, right, Chris? And so they've been having different, obviously some of you may have been part of that. And then I think they're going to do a public forum, but they had these very short meet and greets for us, one today, one for tomorrow, 30 minutes with half of the counselors, which doesn't make any sense because then we really can't ask any questions. However, I don't know if I guess we shouldn't probably say our thoughts, but I did ask about, at least with Rodriguez, what his, if he knew about our work, about the task force, and he said no. So that was disappointing, but I did ask him about things he thought in terms of reform, he thought would be needed in a general sense. And he somewhat answered that. So I don't know if Chris, you had anything to share in your experience. We were in different groups, but it was 30 minutes. So it was not enough to really like dig into the questions. I think each counselor pretty much got one question. I did ask him if he would move, because he lives in Rio Rancho, if he would relocate to Santa Fe. We got the job and he said yes. So that was interesting. And also, he did tell us that he has a degree in master's in, what was it, Marcela, in public administration?
Administration. He has
So
a
to-
master's in administration. A
He said
quick
he
question.
did-
Sorry.
He did study constitutional law, which made me think of Monica and all the things that we talk about to understand constitutional law. Go ahead, Marcela.
Oh, just a quick question that Mary Louise and I were talking about earlier today, or didn't know. Do you know if our current interim police chief lives in Santa Fe?
Chief
I
Joy.
forgot to ask that. I think I just assumed, but many of the other Santa Fe based candidates didn't live in Santa Fe.
I don't know. I thought he did, but I'll ask that same question tomorrow for Chief Joy, because I thought he did live here. Don't you think, Chris?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So,
He probably does.
I hope so.
Forgot to ask because I think I personally, and I'm sure others feel this way, feel it's very important that our police chief live in Santa Fe.
Yep, I think that's important too. Was there anything else on that, Chris? I don't know the timeline of when they said that we'd be hiring. They'd want to hire. You remember?
I don't.
Yeah. I'm assuming by the end, well, I don't know, in a couple of weeks or less. So, but yeah, I mean, I wish I could get questions from you all, but because we don't have time with them very long, we can't ask those questions. But I will ask Chief Joy about, he does know about our work and just curious about his ideas or what he thinks from what he knows now, if there's anything he thinks rises to the top in terms of cultural shifts or changes. I'm not sure if he'll answer truthfully, but I think it, might as well ask, right? Anything else on that point, Chris, or anyone else? No? Okay. Any other updates that I'm forgetting?
Valeria, I did send you the presentation that they were going to present tonight. So
Thank you, Chris. I have that and I'll forward it to the team. Go ahead, Monica.
I just had a question about the calendar. As we start to talk to people to participate in some of the panels that we're developing, I know that, I think it was Marcela that asked about it last meeting, just so that we can, because we may have put together a panel, not just a presentation, but a panel of people that are from all over the country. So it'll just help coordinate that as we try to build those out.
Valeria, did you want to answer that?
I am actually making a note. So we have a work plan. What I will do is I'm going to reshare the work plan with everybody because this is also tied into our quarterly report that's coming up. So expect an email from me tomorrow. And as for coordination, if the working groups can give me a list of when those panels or presentations are being pitched to be scheduled for or confirmed for, then I can work with, coordinate with those working groups to make sure people are lined up, PDFs are sent in time, you know, everybody's up to speed and ready to go for when those presentations take place, make the most of our time together. So.
I think it was more about seeing a calendar so that we know what's happening, and then we could plug in potential
Right.
dates. So
that's that work plan. It's the presentations and the projected months that these presentations would take place. So we can revisit that. And if there are any updates, then folks can make those revisions right there on the actual work plan.
I have a quick question, Valeria, on that. So for a couple of the panels that we're working on, I think we've been hesitant to pitch any dates or times. It might be easier if you shared with us what meeting times we need to fill with presentations.
Like a presentation framework a presentation framework or?
No, actually share like this, here are the dates that we need of upcoming meetings that you can pitch for presentations. Okay. I think we've been hesitant to just pitch it to the panels because there are a lot of national and local folks, and it's much better to give them one date that we know works on our end.
Okay, that works for presentations. So what I'll do is I will highlight those in the work plan and then ping, because the work plan is organized by each of the priorities, presentations included. So I'll ping the meeting dates to the respective folks here so that you will get a notification via email as to what that date is. And then you can plan accordingly. Does that help, Emily? Beautiful. Thank you. We'll do that. So how I wanted to just propose, Renee and Chris, do we want to, before we do the breakout rooms, which I have them lined up, first of all, where do I include Gino? And do we want to go through matters from the task force before the breakout sessions? So once we're done with the breakout sessions, then folks can complete their time together. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Great.
I think Gino should come over to the policies and practices since he's worked for the city before.
That's what
and we lost a member. And so I'd like to recruit him.
Yes.
I'll go where requested.
Yeah. That was my intuitive hit. So that's where I put you to, Gino. Had a feeling Renee was going to say that. Do we want to have a check-in for matters from the task force before we break out? Okay.
The only thing I'll add that you all should be aware of, and Valeria and I and Chris are already talking about to plan for it since things sneak up on us so quickly, but March 30th is the next city council meeting for this month. And that is when because we're required to do quarterly reports or updates. And so that will be our time frame to do a quarterly update to the governing body. And so a lot of the stuff we've been on kind of a holding pattern, not because of by choice, but it's like these things that we are ready to go, but we have to wait for city and for, the fact that we don't have staff to help us. So obviously we won't focus on that, but I think it's just indicative of this, like it's already end of March, and someone will be like, well, why haven't you done this? And I'm like, well, we're waiting for this and this and this. Like we can't make things happen internally for the city, but we can certainly inform ourselves like we've been doing with presentations, et cetera. So.
Right. Great point, Renee.
I think Mary Louise, sorry.
Yeah, I've got Mary Louise and then Marcela, but I wanted just to add, echo what Renee said. And part of what I'm going to send tomorrow is that work plan document so that you can include any updates that you've had in this first quarter, because Renee and I and Chris will have a working session where we're going to pull everything together into that presentation so that it's ready to go for the governing body. Go ahead, Mary Louise, and then Marcela. Go ahead, Mary Louise.
So this is a little bit off, but I wanted to just check in with you guys to see if you received the report that we're doing with elementary schools with restorative justice. Did you guys get that? Okay, good.
Okay.
I got it too, yes.
I didn't send anything that we're doing with middle and high school, but I think at some point it would be good. And I think when Marcela and I present, that I can maybe talk a little bit about what we are doing, especially because there's been a lot of gang-related activity that are happening. And so anyhow, I'm glad you guys got what we're doing already with elementary, because that's important. And the city sponsoring it, so that's awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful, Mary Louise. Thank you. So that will be something that will be great to also plug into that work plan. So that will alert Renee, Chris, and I to make sure that there's that space there for that touch point for that presentation. Go ahead, Marcela.
Hey, I was just wondering, or I was just thinking that for the 30th, I don't know how, is it a verbal report? Do we have to actually present again, or are these just written reports? Verbal? I'm seeing your mouth move, but
Yes,
okay.
it's verbal.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, verbal. They would
Now, we did not present the work plan. So maybe we really do flush out with dates of our panel presentations, our work plan. Like maybe we really just flush out and hone and just make the most polished work plan to present for that, which includes every presentation we're going to do, and hopefully the dates. We could just really focus on that this month and get that filled in for the rest of the year. The other thing, because I think that's a lot of work planning, and we could present that as our report. One, two, I'm wondering if part of what we can present, and this would take a little bit more work, and I don't know if we would have to do it or it's something that Valeria would do or who would be doing it, but kind of putting together the report plan. And I think it would be a helpful guidance to us. And when I say a report plan, like just kind of a table of contents where we're saying, these are the things in addition to the input that we are going to include in our report. So for us, it would be, we're going to include a piece on restorative justice programs with recommendations around future kinds of restorative justice programs. We're going to include changes to local fines and fees, just so that the counselors and the public can anticipate the different buckets of work that we are actually going to be putting that will be comprising our report. That's just an idea for what we could work on this month and present as a part of our report.
Thank you, Marcela.
I second that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And are you envisioning this as you speak to this table of contents in the buckets? Are you envisioning this as a visual aid or as an actual document that people can read through, very, very distilled to the point, concise, laser focus?
Yeah, it's a verbal report and we can have it in a
Okay.
document. I don't think we need to do a PowerPoint every time we present. I feel like part of our sort of opening back up to the public is really, again, the journey and letting people. So, and again, this one piece on the restorative justice. So I envision that, well, one, we want to know what community thinks. So it'll get filled in by the work that Gabe does, right? And that our task force in the community does. But I know, we've done this in the past where it's, this is what studies. it'll basically be like our presentation. What is the history of RJ? What are the different kinds of programs? What are the different studies that show that it actually works and lowers recidivism, et cetera, as a piece of our report? That'll be a piece of our report, right? So letting people know that ahead of time, so that if people want to send us information, they can, and we'll incorporate it if we want to.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So I think, Marcela, you're saying it will be a document because that will be our end product with all those pieces filled, added in. But right now you're asking for an outline of the different areas that we're looking at so that we can start filling them in when we have.
And I also think it's a good guide for us. And that way, you know, Mary Louise and I know, at least from our committee, we're responsible for polishing this up. And Monica's going to do the fines and fees and the decrim piece and assessment, like just so that they, and Emily's going to tell us how to spend all that opiate settlement money. Right, Emily? And so, you know, all of these, so that we really have a strong sense for ourselves of what we need to be working on consistently over the next 7 to 10 months. In other words, a guide.
Mhm.
A roadmap.
Exactly. So I think going back to the work plan, because that work plan is structured as a guide month by month and per priorities based on these 2 working groups. And that could be a great place to gather all that information to formulate this report, Marcela.
Right, but this would be a roadmap for the actual report.
Right, but the work plan is the internal one where I get to keep track of everything that's being accomplished and what is being planned for these next, 7 months, as you pointed. And then the roadmap is its own document, neatly outlined as a report that gets utilized externally to report to the governing body and gets utilized internally as a guiding, a guiding for our guiding process here. Perfect. Anything else for matters from the task force?
Before you all see it in the paper, I did file, I see some smiles, so you guys already know, but I did file to run for county commissioner in District 3. So let's see how that goes.
Yes.
And just so you know, I was filling out my paperwork. I hadn't even paid the fee yet. And Sean Thomas from the New Mexican was already calling me. It's that fast. So
How'd that happen?
I have no idea.
I didn't see it, Counselor, but are you're not wanting to be city councilor anymore? I'm missing it.
So I have 2 years left on my term. I would finish out this year and then the county commission term would start. So I would resign from city council. I don't think it's fair to do both jobs.
Just to make sure, there's no prohibition on doing both jobs, is there?
I'm not sure yet.
I think
I
there
don't
is.
remember one.
I
I
mean,
think there is. I don't know.
Commissioner Garcia right now is doing 2 jobs. So I don't know if there's specific ones in our charter or possibly the counties.
If there is, it's a city or county, because in the southeast where we do a lot of work in Hobbs, it's very funny. I mean, there are people who have 3 positions. They're on the school board, the county commission, and the city council.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy. I would never want to do that. And I imagine if I tried to sit on both those seats, I would have to recuse myself from votes on either side many times, it would be tough.
All
Anything
righty.
else?
Are people feeling complete for now before breaking into our sessions? Awesome. Well, I'm about to assign you all, open both rooms. Thank you all so much. I'll be bouncing back and forth, capturing any action steps or things that we need to follow up on. So great to be back here with you. And here we go.
When's our next meeting? So everybody knows.
March 22nd at 5:30 Mountain Standard Time.
Thank
You'll receive an agenda by early next week. Beautiful.
Thanks
Here
for
we go.
joining us, Andres.
Yes. Thank you, Andres. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, if I could stick around for one of the breakouts, I'd be super interested. And thank you all for all the work you're doing.
Thank you. All right. There we go. Bruce, did you get your invite? Just checking. All righty. Let me join. Yes.
So we can have our own private meeting now, right?
Yeah, right. I guess we're done. Have a
Hey,
nice
take care.
evening.
It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Look forward to working with you.
Yes,
care.
sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Let's see.